Good morning, folks, and welcome to a Zoom edition of City Hall Live. I am Joe Abeyta, and today our guest is City Councilor from District 3, Roman Tiger Abeyta. How you doing today, Councilor?
I'm doing good, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is the first episode of our Zoomcast, so we wanted to get some information out there. I felt like this is a even more important time to be able to, other than people just seeing meetings on our channel, they also need to see maybe just a one-on-one with the people that are actually, that we're doing things and talking to the people that are doing things for our community.
Right. Well, I appreciate having me on the show. It is different than the format we're used to, where we're sitting near each other at the convention center or in the chambers and talking about city-related issues.
Yeah, it has changed. Our whole world has changed. And I wanted to talk to you primarily because last night you guys had a big finance meeting and you're the finance chair. And just kind of get down maybe a armchair quarterback type, layman's terms on what exactly is going on for the folks out there. So what's our financial situation right now because of this virus, the COVID-19?
Well, right now we don't know exactly what it is, but we do know that the city is going to be affected because we are so dependent on gross receipts tax. That's we'll just stick to our general fund because that's where most of our services, our departments are paid from. But when you look at that fund, about $102 to $104 million is what we budgeted this last year. $70 million comes from gross receipts tax. Gross receipts tax is the tax that businesses pay: restaurants, movie theaters, the stores in the mall,
tourism,
and that was shut down. Unfortunately, those were the things that COVID-19 affected the most. Everything got shut down. Grocery stores, as we discussed last night, aren't, and a lot of people are running to the grocery store and buying up. Like in some cases, I heard, "Hey, there's no eggs at this store." While food still, people are buying food, but you don't get grocery receipts tax from food. So really, we are going to be hit pretty hard, we think, when it comes to our general fund and those revenues. And so we've got to figure out what we're going to do to deal with that shortfall. And right now is just a target. Mary McCoy presented to us, our finance director presented to us, if we set the target at 46 million, here's how we can close that gap. And they talked about implementing a hiring freeze immediately, getting rid of temporary positions right away, looking at all the funds across the city, supplies and contractual services. Let's sweep as much of that money as we can. And then unfortunately, let's look at furloughing hours, taking hours from city employees. But even with that, there's still going to be a gap, a shortfall. So in addition to what she presented last night, the other thing we talked about was the mayor introduced a resolution urging Congress to, as they give these relief packages, like we saw the first care package they approved a couple of weeks ago with that had funds available for unemployment and things like that. He is urging them, as they look at these packages, start including money for cities in there, because I believe the first package said we'll provide support or some kind of relief to cities with populations of 500,000 or more, but cities of less, there hasn't been anything funded or anything allocated for us. And when we're so reliant on gross receipts tax, and that's what gets shut down, the generators of those gross receipts tax, I think it's only right that the federal government starts putting money towards municipalities that are so reliant on it.
Yeah. And I know that it was tough yesterday, and I don't know if you had said this, but it's a projected $46 million deficit. That's expected.
That's just a target. Yeah, we're just saying it could be more, it could be less.
Yeah. And how did that number, you come up with that number just in, not major detail, but kind of just saying, you guys just didn't call up. I know Mary McCoy, our finance director, she's like, on top of stuff. She is pretty, how do you want to, meticulous about the way she puts out and how she sets out numbers and stuff. Was it working with her? And also,
she's really smart when it comes to this. She's got a great staff, and now because we're so reliant on GRT, we monitor the GRT that we get. We get it on a monthly basis. It comes in 2 months later, but like, for example, the GRT for January, we'll get a payment in March. And so we have last year's payments for March, April, May, June, broken down by each month. This is what we got last year. This is what we had been getting up until February. And then so we have an idea of what it does year over year. Every March, this is what it's been. Every April, this is what it's been. And then we also have, so we can project more. You can take an average of 2 or 3 years, say, and say, okay, this is what we should be getting if everything was normal. Now that it's not, okay, what are the businesses that got shut down? And she presented to us last night a pie chart that broke down the different sectors where of GRT, where it comes from. And when you look at that, you can kind of get an idea. Like, for example, I think she said something like 13 or 16% comes from retail. And so I asked specifically, okay, that's the biggest piece of the pie here in front of us. What is that specifically? She said, it's the mall. The mall's shut down. It's Cerrillos Road. Those businesses are shut down. You get some money from tourism. So with all that information, they're able to take last year's data, take a look at what's been shut down, and come up with I think at least a target. But again, it's really hard because things have really shut down, and we haven't seen something like this in certainly not in our lifetime.
Yes. And GRT, I mean, and gross receipts tax, they're brought in on a quarterly basis 4 times a year. Is that what it is?
They're brought in on a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis.
But you get the payment 2 months later. So the
Gotcha.
GRT generated in Santa Fe, the gross receipts generated in April. We won't get the check till June.
And okay, and I'm just trying to get an understanding here. So then we're looking at February. Things were still, if you want to call it, normal, right?
Yes.
And then March, last month, was when it really hit, about halfway through, maybe 2 weeks in or so,
right,
when people started to like change their behaviors of travel and cancel and things like that. And then now in April, we're looking at towards the end of April. So we're looking at 2 months worth of GRT. That's an anomaly of what we're normally used to, correct?
Yeah, correct. That's exactly right. And we won't know what the number is until May. We'll see March. But like you said, we weren't fully shut down in March. So but we will see that. June, we will see April, and July, we will see May. So if things continue, if we stay completely shut down in May, and that's 2 full months of GRT that we're gonna really be lacking in that area.
Gotcha. None of us know when this is going to end. Everyone is praying that it ends sooner than later. And I know that it's amazing on how much how little bit of time, like a couple of months, can cripple us, and it's going to take a while for us to bounce back from this, right? I mean, this is going to be a slow process. It's almost like having major heart surgery, and you're having to take things slow as far as walking, running, the way you eat, and all these things, correct?
That's right. Yeah, there's some people that say, well, once it opens back up, people are going to rush to the movie theaters, rush to the restaurants, and things are going to bounce back. And in some sectors, I think we might see that. But travel, we're really dependent on tourism, people visiting our city. And I don't know how quickly people are going to feel comfortable getting in a plane and traveling to another state. So there could be a lag there in that area.
Yeah.
So that's another unknown. I think some sectors will bounce back fairly quickly. We might see a bump, and then going into the winter months, if malls are back open, and then getting ready for holidays and Christmas, and But the other thing we need to factor, Joe, is a lot of people have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
Furloughed, and so it's not as though they have all this money that they're going to be able to just go spend, and GRT is going to bounce right back. So I think it's going to be something that's prolonged. Nobody knows how long it's going to be, but it's also an opportunity for us to take a look at what it is we need to be doing as a city. Where are some areas that maybe over the years, past administrations have taken on things that aren't a priority today, certainly not in this environment. And so we have a real opportunity to right size the government.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Moving on, kind of on topic, but not the same, but also cost savings of what we need to look at now that we're in kind of this new phase of reality that we're living in. You guys also talked about the insurance plan for the city employees. And I like your analogy is that the city employees have a Cadillac medical plan, and then there's an awesome plan right below that, and we have the Cadillac version of that, correct?
Yeah, and it's not my analogy, Joe. It's something that
it isn't? Okay. Well, that was a good analogy, whoever's it was.
Yeah, but I mean, by all means, our employees deserve and they should have a good medical plan.
Yeah.
But when in times like this, when you're having to choose between, we'll use the term Cadillac plan and additional hours being furloughed, or even laid off, I'd rather have maybe the step down plan, a plan that's similar and still better than the state of New Mexico's plan. State employees or county employees plan. And so I think it's time to take a look at that, because like I said, from my perspective, I would much rather have that as opposed to additional furlough hours.
I think anybody would.
Yeah. And plus, if we go to the employees are paying for this plan too, though. It's not just the city. So even the employees will save money where their monthly, the amount that comes out of their paycheck every 2 weeks wouldn't be as high, because that's the other thing. To maintain this type of plan, the cost goes up year after year after year. So even at some point, I would think the employees would also be like, I'd much rather have the money every 2 weeks in my paycheck than this amazing health plan that I may or may not, need. By all means, and I don't mean need, but I mean that where the Cadillac comes in is with certain things like no copayment. Well, in some cases, no copayment or a $5 copayment for prescription.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's paying $15, $20 now, some $25, and they're okay with that.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the thing that we're all going to have to take a look at and ultimately come to agreement on.
Was that item put on there as a result of the COVID-19? Like, it wouldn't have been an item if there was no COVID-19 as far as looking.
No, this has been something we've been talking about since I think even before I was on the council. But when I came in as chair of finance, it was told to us that this is an issue. And it's not just an issue for the city financially in the sense of our budget and what we're paying. The federal government, when they adopted Obamacare, they put in penalties for these types of plans because they don't want to see one group of people or organization having a much better medical plan than everybody else. Because, I mean, we saw with this latest we see it right every 4 years, universal health care for all or Medicaid for all, whatever the plans are. I think eventually as a country, we are moving towards that direction. But the only way we're going to get there is if everybody is on an equal playing field. And that includes government employees. So to encourage that, what they built into Obamacare was these penalties that, private organization or city government, if you want to have this Cadillac plan for your employees, that's fine, but you're going to pay a penalty for it so that we can keep the playing field level for everybody. So it's something that we've had to look at anyways and would be.
And it would have been a result of just the employees paying less and getting more money in their check as far as with it, other than offsetting a COVID-19 19 or some kind of a weird thing happening in our reality, right? I mean, it would just
Right, and
okay.
what it's going to affect is co-payments. You'll have, like I said, you would pay $15 for a prescription as opposed to 5.
Gotcha.
Outpatient surgeries, you might have a surgery that costs you maybe $1,200 or $2,000 out of pocket, but that's it.
Gotcha.
For the and even if the surgery costs, if you have multiple surgeries, you that can run $400,000 or $500,000. All that's going to be covered.
Yeah.
Right now, under our plan, I think you pay maybe $100 for everything, even if it's. And so it's something we got to look at.
Yeah, and I mean, and that is nice. You know, I know that I had surgery like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I think. No, 16 years ago actually, and I only paid $75.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so it was a trip to Red Lobster.
Well, and there's other things though too that are really generous in the plan. Like we hear all the time about these massages that the city paid for, and it's so any little thing we do, and it's not just the city paying for it, it's the employees too, because their rates keep going up. I don't know if you've noticed, but every year it's like there's another $10 every 2 weeks out of my check for medical. So it's not just the city paying it, it's the employees also. And so I think it's something that we've been wanting to look at for quite some time, but this obviously makes it more of a priority, because like I said, I would rather do something like this and save some jobs or furloughs.
Absolutely.
Hours, you know, so.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, I wanted to talk to you about also, I know the feds, you had discussed also federal assistance as well. And I think that, you know, a lot of us we see the federal assistance getting the stimulus checks, you know, even though a lot of people have not seen them yet, but we know that it's coming, right? The checks in the mail type of thing. But how does that work for like a municipality in large amounts of money? How does it trickle down? Because the feds would send it to the state first, and then the state would disperse it to the municipalities. Is that how it works, or is there no middleman and it just goes straight from the federal government to a municipality?
Usually it goes through the state, but there are federal grants. So it's all going to depend how they set it up. And I think that's something that they're going to have to negotiate and figure out. Is it better for it to go through the states or directly to the municipalities? So it could be either way.
Okay. And how would these funds help us out? How would it help the community out? What does it do for us? How does it help us as a municipality? And then how does that also in turn help out the community?
Well, what it would do is, depending on how much it is, but even if you recall from our discussion last night, even with all of the measures we are taking, even with the furloughs that unfortunately we're having to ask the employees to do, there's still going to be a shortfall from anywhere between $8 million and $12 million. And so without being able to find that in other places within the existing budget, like we talked about, maybe there's funds out there that have some balances that a project got built, it didn't cost as much, so there's leftover money, then okay, we can sweep that, we can use some of that. But really what it would do is, depending how much it would allow us to stop with the furloughs and stop with the discussions about layoffs. But at any rate, though, even if we do get federal money, I still think this is an opportunity for us to look at what are we doing as a city? What services are maybe outdated? Can we reorganize the city? I mean, there's been talk about, if you look at the city manager and her span of control, we have a lot of departments. We've talked about maybe consolidating departments, creating efficiencies there. And so the federal money would help us fill this gap that we're still going to have. But I think we still need to take a look at how we do business. I think not just the city, but everybody in our country and the world's going to do that as a result of this pandemic.
It's kind of like a clean out your garage type of thing. Is like, when was the last time that I used use this, right? It's been a while and it's just gathering dust, and your spouse tells you, get rid of it. It's just staying out here, and all it has is sentimental value to it, right? It's not really
Right.
giving you any kind of value to it, but it's an
That's a good analogy, Joe.
Okay, yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, no, but it's right. There's certain things that we've done. It's like, why do we do it, or why do we do things that way?
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just the way it's always been. And like, for example, the land use department, they figured out quickly, we can give permits online now, or we can do this. Well, those are practices that we want to continue afterwards.
yeah,
Like I said, there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come out of this. There's a lot of good things that are going to come out of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of it is how we conduct business as a city. And hopefully those things that we're doing now to make it easier for people to access us because of this crisis we're in, we should continue even when restrictions are lifted. Let's not go back to, oh no, you can't apply for permits online anymore. You've got to come in again.
Yeah, let's progress with it.
Let's progress with it. That's right.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. I mean, this is a result, right, of us being in of COVID-19, of doing virtual meetings, and it was a learning process, right? But
do I need to drive down to City Hall from the south side from now on to go to meetings? Well, I didn't have to do it during COVID. Why can't we just do a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. There's been some good things that have happened from it, as far as having us rethink an old type of way to do things, an old procedure, right?
And we'll get through it, Joe. We always do.
Yeah, we will.
People, our country, we're a great country. We're an amazing city. I love our city, and our employees, they're the backbone of this city. And while we're having tough discussions and we're having to use words like furlough and layoff, I know it's scary. It could be a little intimidating, but we're going to do everything we can to find money other places, and then come back together and rebuild the city ultimately, but build it better. Let's get a better model.
Yeah.
Let's take this and let's use it to improve our lives when it's all set.
No, that's great. Well, thank you, Councilor, for spending some time with us. We hope to have you on maybe for an update, maybe next month or so, but we appreciate you taking the time. And I know that the community also would appreciate, we kind of a breakdown what we did here of the meeting from last night. So thank you again.
Yeah, and thank you, Joe. And I want to thank again the staff, the other councilors, the mayor, the members of the finance committee, and the residents, the citizens of Santa Fe. Let's continue to stay home, stay safe, and stay strong.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, thank you very much. Well, folks, this has been City Hall Live, our first episode on Zoom, and we want to thank you, folks. Please stay safe out there. Have a great weekend. Have a safe week. Adios.